During the mid-1800s to the early 1900s, in and around the Rugby district, many villages and towns were introduced to brass bands. The local bands were Rugby Town, Long Lawford, Bishop's Hitchington, Southam, Broadwell, Dunchurch, Daventry and also Long Buckby, which combined later with Daventry to become the Daventry and District Band. Rugby Town Band was an established band, later to be disbanded in the 1960s, when in 1893 a band was formed in Bilton to be known as the Bilton Magnet Brass Band. As a matter of interest, the Magnet was a club set up in the village by the then rector of St Mark's Church, who bought and closed the Star Inn, now known as the Gables. The Magnet was to attract the youth of the village away from drunkenness. The band became known as the Bilton Brass Band in 1906, and in 1938, after the purchase of silver-plated instruments, it was decided to change the name to the Bilton Silver Band, and this was how it remained until 1976, when the Borough Council, in a local government reorganisation, took over the administration of the outlying villages. Since the village of Bilton had been part of the Rugby Borough for many years, it was proposed that the name of Rugby be associated with the band, and the name then became the Bilton Silver Rugby Band. Other bands have appeared in rugby over the years, such as the Rugby Steamshed Band, which was associated with the railway, and the new Bilton Imperial Band, only to disappear into oblivion with the other aforementioned bands. Of those, Bilton Silver, Daventry and District and Dunchurch survive today. Bilton Silver has survived through 2 world wars and many other hardships, making music and giving pleasure to all for 100 years, and will continue to do so for many, many years to come.
Russelsheimer, known to most rugby folk as our twin town in Germany, and sadly perhaps not visited by too many. This was the case with Bilton Band before 1986, but our story starts the year before with a visit to Rugby by the Russelsheimer Musikanten, and we invited them to our band room on the Sunday morning to meet and make music together. This, followed by a social hour in the Bilton Club, resulted in Fritz Michaels, the Musikanten manager, extending an invitation to bring your band to Germany next year. And so, the following August, we arrived at the Walter Halle to a musical welcome, met our hosts and departed with them. Next day, both bands played in the town centre in the morning, followed by a visit to their town museum and a party that night in the Halle, with all the sports organisations who had gone to Russelsheimer that weekend. Sunday, after a free morning with our hosts, we joined in the festival of Haslock, a parade with decorated tableaux, where the locals brought out trays of schnapps and brandy for the participants, which were well received. Back in Rugby, we formed a subcommittee to arrange our hosting for the next year. It was also the 10th anniversary of the Twinning Charter, and both bands were asked to play at the ceremony outside our town hall, and this was followed by a Musikanten playing in the centre of Rugby. The evening party was at Turner's to our guests' delight, and the Sunday concert by them in Bilton Club was well received. Firm friendships were forming, and so it was just a natural see you next year, as it always is. No doubts that it may not happen, it just does. 1988, we were taken wine tasting at Rudesheim, and another first, a Sunday morning concert by Bilton in the town park in Russelsheimer. 1989, a visit to the Napton Organ Museum. 1990, a boat trip down the Rhine, with other boats around us with their occupants singing and dancing as both bands played. 1991, both bands playing at the Town and Country Show at Kenilworth, and by now, families were beginning to exchange holidays both here and in Germany. 1992 was the year of the flowers, when we were presented with a floral arrangement of gladioli, and worked into it a selection of paper flowers made from £50 notes, making £500 in total to help us towards celebrating our centenary. What of the future? Well, it must be, here's to the next 100 years. Auf Wiedersehen.
Tell us a little bit about the band itself. Obviously, like any brass band, it's made up with quite a lot of people, isn't it? Tell us about the people in the band.
Okay, there's a mixture of youth and experience. There are no founder members left within the band, needless to say.
99 years.
Not that I'm aware of, anyway. And they cover all walks of life. Some live very much in the village and are villagers, and a few of us travel to Bilton to participate in the band's activities. And we go from students to all the way through to mature students.
How often do you meet and rehearse and things like that?
On a regular basis, we meet and rehearse twice a week in our own premises in the village. And we meet on Mondays and Fridays for rehearsals.
What about performances? How often do you perform in public?
We tend to try and control and limit the number of performances that we undertake on the basis that we would look for quality rather than quantity. And it's an old thing with bands and I suppose other organisations, if you're overexposed, then the thing can get a little jaded. So as we develop our programme, our series for a year, we try and do that on a selective basis. And if you added the number of appearances that we make in a year, it's probably 18 to 20 of a varying nature, from big concerts with good presentation, good programme, right down to garden fetes and the like.
Tell us about the music that you actually play.
Music is as broad as we can make it, comprising, if you like, from original brass compositions right through to orchestral arrangements. And because the membership of the band is, as I said earlier, quite young in certain areas, then we try and feature, as we would say, music that is attractive and interesting to that part of the band as well. But what we have to remember is that whatever we're playing and presenting is to an audience. So our choice of music is governed very much by where we are playing.
You're the conductor directing the band. Do they sort of obey all your orders and everything?
Absolutely not.
So now some of the members of the band who are the more mature students, I think was the phrase that Brian used just a moment ago. Stan, how long have you been with the band?
I've been with the Bilton band 37 years, but I've been in banding now 52 years in total.
There's a hint of, more than a hint of a Scottish accent there.
Yes, I was with the local band up home in Jedburgh, in the borders of Scotland, and then I came down to Rugby in 1955.
We've heard a little bit about the band itself. What do you like about it's brass band music? Something special about brass band music, isn't there?
Oh, it's the camaraderie in the band. Everybody's very, 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 very keen. Like we had our ups and downs over the years. We had our lean periods, and then we've developed, and we're now on the up and up. But we have had periods where we were really scraping ourselves. You know, some nights we would get to the band room and find only about 8 players there. But gradually we stuck it out and kept on building, training youngsters, and gradually we've got to where we are today.
It's nice to see the younger members of the band, isn't it?
Oh, it is, especially for an oldie like me. Like we've got to be replaced sometime, so and. Hopefully I can still stick it out till after the centenary. Anyway.
Oh, I'm sure you can, Eric, what about yourself? Tell us about your history with the band.
52 years in the same band, the Bilton band. Started when I was 10 in the village. And at that particular time, there were nearly all villages in the band then, when the war started. All the Wheatleys and the Wilsons, all big families in the village. There weren't many outsiders then.
Take us through some of the highlights looking back on those years. What have been the grand concerts and things like that you've been involved with?
Well, one of the best things I think with the band is when we went down to London, when we got through from the national finals in Leicester, went down in the third section and played down at Hammersmith, wasn't it? Yeah, Hammersmith. That was one of the highlights of my day.
It's quite nice having the audience there the great performance, isn't it?
I was hoping sometime we'd get down to the Howard Hall and play, but I don't think I'll ever get that chance.
Well, there's always time. Let's talk. It's Mike, isn't it?
That's
Mike,
right.
Doing well, remembering all the names. Well, how long have you been with the band for, Mike?
I joined the band in 1954. It's 38 years now.
I should have asked you which instruments you
Tenor
play.
horn myself.
Your tenor horn and Eric?
Cornet
And
trombone.
Right, so a fair old mixture there. It's the rehearsals. It's been interesting while we've been taking in the performance, recording the songs, recording the pieces of music. It's quite important, the rehearsal, getting everybody together, isn't it?
Oh yes, indeed. They do have problems occasionally with work commitments and this sort of thing. So it's always difficult to get a total band together at a time, but generally when contest work or concert work is coming up, everybody pulls together and tries to get to every rehearsal they can. But it is difficult, as I say, times for work commitments.
And it does seem to be quite a mixture there, isn't it, with
Yes,
all the people involved?
That's right, it's quite a good mixture of ladies and gents these days. When I joined the band, I joined the junior section at that time, of course, and there weren't many ladies, Eric, were there, in the band? Only 54 time. But everybody, there's a good, as Stan was saying, a good camaraderie between everybody, and it's a social thing as well as a band, so to speak, a playing band. It's a social band as well, which is a nice one.
Tina, it's important we talk to the women as well as the men, obviously. Which instrument do you play?
Euphonium.
And how long have you been with the band?
19 years. I started obviously when I was 11, along with my two brothers. My uncle, Eric Pywell, is also in the band, and he introduced us to it. And at the time, there wasn't an awful lot of women in the band movement, but thankfully, over the years, that has increased, and a lot of bands now have a majority of women.
So how many women are there in Bilton Silver, then? Roughly.
Roughly, yes. There must be 10, 11. So that's quite good. And various age ranges as well. It's quite nice to see the youngsters coming through as well.
Maybe a difficult question. What do the women bring to the band?
Glamour. Yes, it is a difficult question, actually. A lot of women actually usually end up marrying band members. It's actually eluded me at the moment, so don't know quite where I'm going wrong. But no, a lot of women usually start off very young, and then they seem to peter out as they sort of grow older. But as I say, thankfully, this trend seems to have died off.
What about the music itself? Which pieces of music do you prefer?
I prefer all sorts, actually, if it's from classical to the new pop music which is being written and arranged, especially for brass bands. Obviously, if it's got nice euphonium parts, that's even better.
And what do you do when you're not with the band?
Play hockey. Play hockey and work. Yes, I also play hockey, so that's a pastime which gets me out and about and also takes up an awful lot of time as well. So I've got two hobbies which take a lot of time.
Keep you pretty busy, yes. OK, well, thanks for talking to us, Tina.